St. Norbert, a distinct community on the south end of Winnipeg. The place where Louis Riel's dream of what Manitoba should be took shape. And this is a former orphanage and home for unwed mothers, Azil Richot. The orphanage began in 1904 and stopped operating in 1948. But its impact is still being felt. Especially in these woods, where many of the children who were here ended up buried. In recent months, there has been a grassroots movement to try to stop the development of the Lemay Forest.
What a jerk. Don't be such a coward. Come on out.
Why are you cutting trees down? There's no permit. There's no zoning change. What are you doing?
A developer was pushing for a 2,500 unit assisted living facility.
What you wake up to? Destruction.
And that meant that this rare wilderness enclave, much cherished by locals, would be lost. Sweat lodge ceremonies are held here. And it is the final resting place of an uncertain number of orphanage children, many of whom were likely Métis.
If you compare the numbers of children that died at the Azil Richot, it is overwhelming.
Quite a few people were really wanting to see this land get protected and honored the way it should.
But then, on April 14, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew stepped in.
We're going to expropriate this area to make it a beautiful new provincial park for us all to enjoy.
Next thing you know, there's an announcement of expropriation, which came as a total surprise to us.
News of the Premier's move had an instant effect. At the spot where the forest protectors had been keeping a sacred fire, a feast was held.
I knew that there was something that needed our protection, that needed us to be here to stop the desecration.
At the St. Norbert Farmers Market, we checked in with people about the government's expropriation plan.
These guys are a little spicy. You want to get one of those? Okay, sweet. I think it's great. I don't think I could think of a better person in leadership in Canada right now to take full advantage of this kind of ecological protection, historical site protection.
So how do you feel about Premier Wab Kinew stepping in and expropriating the land?
I cheered when I heard it. It was fantastic. Wab makes me so proud to be Manitoban.
You can make like chicken type stuff.
Chicken nuggets, shredded chicken.
If you own it, and now the government is telling you what to do with something that you already own, I don't know. It's a little bit of a, I mean, it's a bold move.
It's a story that has Winnipeggers talking and thinking. Diane Bousquet organized this powwow to celebrate. and she and I go for a stroll near where the sacred fire was.
I'm an artist,
Yeah.
and I try to think of how can I grab people's attention. My sister said, how about we hang some clothes, try to get 3,000 pieces of clothes up to the line and all the way through, kind of symbolizing each one of those children that are in there and why we're here. Bring people to come talk to us. So.
And so the powwow Bousquet has organized is as much for the people who stood on guard for Lemay as it is for the children lost here.
I mean, look at these kids, you know? Talk about heartbreaking.
But who were they? And how were there so many who died here? Shelley Sweeney has been doing a deep dive into the Azil Richot's records. She's Archivist Emerita at the University of Manitoba. Sweeney says the orphanage operation may have bitten off more than it could chew.
They were expecting to have 30 babies to look after. And at that point, there was, I think, 4 sisters that were looking after the children. By 1911, they had to build an entirely new building, and the population just exploded.
So what do we know about who the children were who attended the orphanage? Records say that just 225 Métis children total attended the Azil, the French word for asylum. But there may have been more than that.
It's not unreasonable to expect that there were more or a higher percentage of children that were Métis. First of all, people were reluctant to admit it by that point. And then there were also children that were being abandoned at the home. So look at how many 4 rows in this kid, they're starting a 5th row.
The close quarters might have led to bigger problems, says Sweeney.
If there were disease, it would rip through the entire institution, I would imagine, given how close the children were packed in there. And then there's always the possibility that they were getting contaminated water. And so typhoid, for example, or enteritis, that's a frequent listing in the death registers.
The St. Boniface Historical Society says 3,383 died there. They also say 726 children were buried in the orphanage cemetery.
The logistics just boggles the mind, and the tragedy of it is unbelievable.
The 726 buried there was just between 1907 and 1912. That is a startling death rate of 145 children per year. The orphanage operated from 1904 to 1948. Averaged out, that is 77 dead children per year over 44 years.
Nearly 3,400 children died. So you have to ask yourself, well, where are these children?
And of the ones who died, there is a clue in a burial register about where they were put.
This is in the writing, the handwriting of one of the sisters, and she says that each year they will open a large pit for the bodies of the children. this area is where you would expect to find the pit graves for orphanage children.
A series of 3 provincial government reports from 1945 paint a grim picture of life at the orphanage. Investigators found children looked pale and listless, writing, "Their care left much to be desired, and that the whole atmosphere in the home is depressing, and the staff interviewed appear insecure, lethargic, and discouraged."
I can barely talk about it without crying. It just, it's pretty hard to think about. You know, if I just concentrate sort of on the logistics, then I'm fine. But if I start thinking about what the children actually went through.
It's been close to 70 years since the Azil Richot closed. But this year, with the fight to save Lemay, its legacy seems stronger than ever.
In the summer, when the windows were open, the neighbors could hear the children crying in the night.
Shelley Sweeney met us at the former orphanage, now a government-run treatment facility called the Behavioral Health Foundation. To look at the building
from 1972.
And also go out back.
Over here, they did LIDAR, and they were able to find the evidence of 2 disturbances that were suggestive of pit graves.
Let's take a look at it. Provincial archaeology staff have found evidence of pits in the cemetery.
If you come along here, this was the 3rd quadrant, and this was reserved for the orphans. And you can see that there's a large depression here, which may be one of the pits where the children were buried.
The sadness of what happened to these children is a big part of why people rally to save Lemay Forest. Just ask powwow organizer and sacred fire keeper Diane Bousquet.
Reconciliation isn't just recognizing the children that are in that ground, it's honoring this whole forest. So it is doing our part as stewards to this land. And then it goes even further than that. If we are going to be actually working in the true name of reconciliation, then we also need to bring that cemetery back up to a dignified state.
Bousquet has a long connection to the forest and the treatment center, beginning with her Métis mom and First Nations dad.
This is it. This is the one. It saved my family's life. I was apprehended when I was 3, and that's when my mom fully got sober and separated from my father. So I don't remember the days of running through the fields here, but I do hear my sisters speaking of running through these forests and playing here.
Later, Bousquet worked at the Behavioral Health Foundation as well and began doing sweats in the woods out behind it.
That's how I ended up here, was just knowing that these lodges are here and they needed to be protected. And then I found out about the kids, and I had no idea what race they were. It didn't matter to me. They're kids. Every child matters. Every child matters.
We met Bousquet out here not long after she'd returned for her first sweat since the expropriation had happened.
It was beautiful to come in here with my daughter again today, and it was an honor to watch my elder be where he should be. This is one of the very few lodges left in this entire province that's within city limits that still has this around it.
This unsightly slash through the Lemay Forest happened under the watch of John Winthrop, an urban planner who has acted as a spokesperson for the now former owner of Lemay Forest, Mazyar Yayapour.
Right now, they haven't even given us the letter of notification that the lands are being expropriated. We found out through the media.
By Winthrop's account, he and the landowner were protecting a sweat lodge near the one Diane Bousquet showed us. Why did you cut that swath of trees right near the sweat lodges?
Yeah, very strategically. We were looking to put access onto the property because we thought we might lose our access along where the protesters were blocking people, and the landowner owns a piece of property along Lemay Avenue, so we cut a swath that would allow us to bring vehicles in through the house lot onto the site. And we have attendees going to the sweat lodge, and their access was being limited. Everybody's saying they're my trees. I used to be forced to do something.
So you're just going to cut down all the trees
enough.
in spite? Just in spite?
You don't own the trees.
Doesn't matter if you own the trees
you
or
don't
not.
own the trees.
Why cut them down?
We're moving on.
Winthrop was not entirely popular with the people protesting the development.
I'm hearing them, but they're not moving out of the way of the equipment.
Kat Gauthier, a founder of the Coalition to Save Lemay Forest, has encountered John Winthrop. Gauthier's yard backs onto the edge of the Lemay Forest, and the developer's destruction of trees right nearby felt personal.
What you wake up to?
8 o'clock in the morning, I looked out my window and I just saw this thing with claws ripping the trees out. These trees right here. And it took me weeks to be able to sit in my backyard without feeling utter grief and rage, a lot of rage.
I hope that us announcing this initiative is going to be enough to just calm the waters and allow what should be now a negotiation and a fairly boring process, if you will.
Any idea of what you and the landowner might want?
Fair compensation. He's owned the land for a long time. He has a mortgage on the property. The mortgage holder has to be paid out. There's been a lot of effort put into the planning of the lands where the municipal board actually ruled in favor of residential housing on the property with a lot of engineering and archaeological studies. So there's some compensation due to the private landowner.
Initially, the main reason Gauthier got involved in stopping the decimation of Lemay was that its richness as a natural habitat seemed worth preserving.
And it is a gold mine of this forest, the wildlife, everything that it sustains, the pileated woodpecker, the Canada warbler, the little brown bat, all these species that are protected. The 237-year-old green ash tree. Like, that's a heritage tree for Winnipeg.
But Gauthier's involvement has also taken on a reconciliatory meaning.
Went to Sweat Lodge last Sunday, which was a really good way to kind of close out this phase of the Lemay Forest activism. It was really, really powerful.
I don't know, I'm just gonna need help. Because parents are usually good with helping arts and crafts and stuff.
You're the artist.
Yeah,
Personal development in nature is something local Métis woman Lindsay Brown has an appreciation for too.
And it like messes up the whole thing.
I have done a lot of healing in this area and on these grounds. And this tree right here, I've come to pray with for a few years.
We're at a place that is a favorite of hers, the ruins of the old Trappist monastery in St. Norbert, now a provincial heritage park.
You can just feel and see and sense the cultural connection all around.
Brown found herself dialed right in to the Lemay cause.
It immediately had my radar go, wait a minute, why is this happening? And I just felt this pull to step in and help.
As it turned out, the day Premier Kinew announced the planned expropriation was also the day when workers were cutting that swath through the forest. And Brown found herself getting arrested for allegedly being where she wasn't supposed to be. But afterwards, leaving the police station, Brown got the news from a police officer.
He was the one who let me know that Wab had made the announcement. And so I was at the police station on my own with a bunch of police officers to find out that news. Blown away. Blown away. And it was very surreal.
This is where things are at. The provincial government has expropriated the land for a provincial park, but will it be the right solution for these women who have fought so hard for Lemay?
I'll be honest that there has been some trepidation. We don't want to see your typical type of provincial park with, paved paths and lights and that sort of thing.
Our vision was always no development, just a passive park for nature and wildlife to thrive and for people to find kind of serenity and healing. That was our vision when we started this whole thing 5 years ago.
I need to know that the lodges are going to be safe and that in 25 years from now, my kid's not going to be fighting for her kid's lodge. That's the piece that's missing here. So it's a little bit of a hard situation because it is a win, but it still feels like a bit of a loss. And he said, these horses are going to slaughter. Louise was like, I don't care.
And that terrible slash cut through the forest?
I would like to see where he's fallen all of those trees, a medicine garden go in. And also, I would like to see the cemetery be brought up to a dignified state where we can all come to reflect. I would like this to be a learning experience for everybody, where you come and you learn about the 3,000 children that are here.